we're talking about memory in all the levels, like our very personal, our common memories. It all has to do at the end with our relation with other people, with other environments.
Über Essen, Dortmund, Münster, Osnabrück,
My body and my senses will allow me to feel reality, not just through my head, but as a person.
Our own memories would be transferred out to other places, to other occasions, through our body language and body conversation, I would say.
Uhr 46. Vorsicht bei der Einfahrt.
I remember growing up without a mother because she got sick from the experiences in the war. I was always the representative for all the Jewish people in any which way, be it religion, be it politics, be it whatever questions there were. And so I found out at a very young age that it was quite important for me to know how to get my information.
Whatever I was experienced, it was like through more written words, which were in a way were very well informative, brought the story and the evidence to my knowledge. Like, I all the time was trying to feel what was the meaning of being naked, nude, in front of the soldiers, in front of the nature. It was unclear to myself how could human beings acting, humiliating other people, no matter what was the uniform and the level.
I was an avid reader and I was secretly going to my mother's library, and at a very young age I found those books about the Shoah with the photos of those mountains with dead people's bodies. So I think since my very early age group, I was informed and I was thinking about what has happened during the war.
Abfahrt, Ankunft Kurier, Ankunftsuhr, Sprungweg 7:10 Uhr. Jürgener Gleis 13 Einfahrt, der Euroline 456 aus Warschau mit Zugang Kopenhagen.
I worked a lot with bread, because bread was a very basic food at that time, and people would commit suicide to have a piece of bread, and there was a kind of connection in between the basic food, the bread, and the body. I mean, people would hide it on their body, people would react eating a piece of silly piece of bread. Talking about cold and heat. Again, I was trying to feel what is it, the way of survival in these kind of places. And I went to the wood where my grandmother was assassinated, and I went to other places where my father suffered the war. It was either in Riga in Latvia, and then I went to Theresienstadt in the Czech Republic, and I was trying to experience by myself what was the meaning of what he was trying to describe, because it's not only in the level of intellectual understanding as a theory. There is a side of regular behavior, of everyday life, which I was seeking to experience by myself. So in a way, there was a real direct connection in between the stories, the descriptions with my own feeling.
The friends of my parents were all survivors, and entertainment was to go to the Jewish Community Center and to see either theater plays or evenings with songs from the ghetto, from people that came and go, because Berlin at the time was a place where there was a large movement of Jewish people leaving Berlin or passing through Berlin. My parents never spoke much about the war when we were growing up. Their mother tongue was German, even though their mother tongue was Polish, but they never spoke Polish in the house because they had too many bad memories from the past. And I think they also didn't want to talk about the war because they wanted to spare my brother and myself the brutality.
And I felt the meaning of time has a lot to do with every small action. Like if I would position my body unbalanced, which that was something very natural, so the limits of the time in those positions would really express my feeling.
I know that it will always be determined how I see the reality outside myself, how I feel about it inside. It was only much later, when my children had already left the house, that my mother started to tell me bits and pieces. But whenever I tried to write something down, she would immediately stop talking.
I have to do with my dialogue with the space, with the meaning of the space, since the war and the journey and the phases one after the other one in this terrible marching, that of course I had to do a lot with outdoor work.
Sometimes there are spaces you cannot go back because they might have changed beyond recognition. That's why my parents never went back to their hometowns in Poland. A space and a time are related to the people we knew there and what we experienced there and what we can still find as traces if we go back there.
I was visiting first time Villa Wannsee in Berlin, and I was watching the nature around. It's a paradise when you see all the wood, and you're thinking that that was the location, that was the place that people were sitting like almost like a picnic in the very poetic and romantic area with all the beautiful flowers and trees around and the leaves and everything was a kind of, in my self-interpretation, as a kind of evidence to this terrible planning of destroy the Jewish nation.
Growing up with survivors and the children of survivors after the war who had a very different attitude. Some of them would talk non-stop and really traumatize their children. So I had a pretty good idea of what must have been going on in the lives of my parents.
I went to the wood in Riga where I knew that people were stood naked in a freezing weather, and again I see all the trunks around, and I see all the leaves on the floor, and I see the meaning of earth. Earth, it's an element that I work a lot with. This is, of course, everything is outside. But each part, inside, outside, would build one completed, I would say, element of understanding the terrible evidence.
Nature and urbanity are both man-made, but by a different degree.
I'm a crossing line character. I'm not a very established in my mind. And then came the meaning of the lines during the Second World War and the Shoah meaning of lines, which was obviously, first of all, as a symbol, the shirts of the prisoners or the victims of the Holocaust. In a way, I have to admit, the more when I grew up, I was trying to break it, to cross this limitation, to try and analyze what these lines making personally to myself. For 17 years I was, at that time I was trying to find out what was the meaning of going to your death, I mean in a train.
It's like the hidden and the revealed. The more you reveal, the more gets hidden. The more you try to hide stories, nature, grass under cement, the more it will break out. Sometimes you can only live because you will forget in time. And sometimes you can only live because you will remember in time.
There is a world continuing life and people, a new generation. The language still exists and it's everywhere. And for me, train in Germany is always a kind of a problem. I have to admit, whenever I step into a train in Germany, there is something which comes and reflecting to my head terrible images.
There are tracks, and then there are trains that run on them. I actually like to ride on a train. I like to watch people get on and off, very different according to wherever the train will stop. And I like to think about their stories. When I ride on a train, I never quite know which one is in motion and which one is arrested by time, the train or my body. My mother when she was young, and the Hitler and Stalin non-aggression pact broke, and the Jews were set free in Siberia. She told me that she jumped with several other young people a train to organize a different train to bring it back so that all the thousands of Jews that were waiting could take the train to Uzbekistan.
My parents, they did not have money at all. I mean, they lived all their life in a big struggle to feed us. But you know, my father took all his money from his pension. He was an officer in the army. Invested in his book, and there is no better, I would say, archive investment for the future than this written book, because it's there, everything is there. And yes, I think that when I was trying to create my own work, my own videos or catalogs or whatever, it was another phase in the family research, and I think that it was my father's obligation, my second generation obligation, but I no doubt in a way do it for my very personal interest, but it will probably will stay for my next family generations as well, no doubt about it.
My family name is related to the word the Prussian. And so even my ancestors, my family comes from Poland. Obviously, some centuries before, they had come from Germany. And it has taken the murderous Nazi regime, for me, absurdly enough, to be born in Berlin. And my trains of thoughts, my lines will run always also back to Majdanek and Treblinka, where my family was being murdered.
Looking to the future, to my own family, I hope that we'll get on the very normal line. At least that's my prediction.
In my work, in a collage, you can use bits and pieces from different times and put them together to a whole new world, a whole new time, a whole new life. You can change things for the better.